Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Clear here with a knife video for you. And today I want to take a look at the new CRKT lineup for 2019. I do want to say two things by way of introduction. The first one is I'd love for you to go over to Knife News and follow along with the discussion and make comments yourself. So that way you can look at the list. You can maybe add some knives that you're like, Kevin, I think you missed this one. You really should have talked about it. So I'd love to hear some commentary down below. The other thing I want to say right out front is about the steel choices. Typical for CRKT, we're going to see a bunch of less than stellar blade steels. Okay, that's the way CRKT does things. The fact is, most of their customers don't know enough to care. And so, you know, when they're selling millions of knives at a Walmart, there's no way that they're going to listen to the 15 of us that say, guys, we wish you would use better steel. Since we're talking about it anyway, I'll say it, guys. 14C28N is a thing. The cost is not that different from 8CR13 MOV, and the performance is vastly, vastly better. Please stop using that crappy steel. There's no excuse in 2018 for anyone to be using it. Okay, rant done. Let's go ahead and look at the knives because I do actually want to share some of these knives with you. So, oh, that's the wrong way to do this. Let's see. That's not the knife I want to start with. This is the knife I want to start with. This is the CRKT Seismic. It's a big knife, 3.96 inches on the blade. We've got that nice finger choil IKBS bearing system. Now, the steel is not stellar. It's not 8CR13 MOV, so I'm going to make note of this. This is the German 1.4116 steel that we've seen a couple of times. It's actually not a horrible steel, although they do say right in the description that they've only hardened it to 56 Rockwell, which is kind of a fail. Hopefully the performance is better than that. You know, these are just kind of, maybe this is the pre-production number and it'll turn out to be a little harder. I guess I can dream. This also has a particular lock that I want to make note of. The deadbolt lock innovation provides incredible strength and is easy to use. So this may be worth picking up just to get a look at that lock and see, you know, what we think of it. And so that would be the main reason that I put this one on the list, because of the fact that it's got that different lock, and therefore my curiosity is a little bit piqued. Even though I'm not in love with this design, I may pick one up just to check out the lock. Something a little more interesting is the fact that there's going to be a larger version of the CRKT Pilar. This is really interesting, and I'll give you the specs here so you can see. This is going to have a 2.66 inch blade. Would have been nice to see a full 3-inch blade here. It weighs 4.2 ounces, which is a little much for a very small knife, and has about a 4-inch handle. So definitely quite a bit larger than the original, and possibly worth checking out because of that larger size. The original Pilar was very popular, but it was way too small for me, and I just wasn't that interested in it. This one I may pick up and share with you. On that theme, let's take a look at another knife. This is the CRKT, well, it looks like the Crossbones, but let me scroll down here to the specs and you'll see the blade length of 4.85 inches. 4.85 inches is quite a lot, and there we go. Like every once in a while I tap one of those buttons. You can see, you know, typical, it's the same design of the original Crossbones, it's just larger. So this knife is probably one I'm going to try to take a look at, just because I like larger knives, and I find this one pretty compelling because it's so thin that I think it'll give the option of carrying a larger knife well, not taking up a huge amount of pocket space. So yeah, kind of cool, and I might go ahead and pick one of these up just because of that large size. So next on the list is the Offbeat. This is actually last year, I think they came out with, or the year before they came out with the Offbeat, and now they're going to do sort of an updated version. I think this is a Crawford design. Usually it says here somewhere. Hold on. Let me scroll down. Yeah, designed by Pat and Wes Crawford. So this is actually an older knife that's been around for a while and has sort of been updated. And because of the interesting locking mechanism, again, I'm kind of curious to maybe check one of these out. So Offbeat is kind of cool, and I may have to get my hands on one. They're also fairly lightweight. I think they come in at, where can I find the weight? 3.3 ounces, which is pretty neat for a knife of this size. Next up is the Slacker. This is too small for my preference, okay? It's a pretty Ken Onion looking design. I like the fact that it's got some jimping up there on the blade. It's a little small, but it does have the field strip technology, which I am kind of a fan of. You know, I don't love it in every application, and I didn't really get too many knives that had it this year, but there are a couple on my list here that I may take a quick look at and at least consider picking up for review. By the way, if you're watching this and there's some that really stand out to you and you're saying, I'd love to see your thoughts on this particular knife or that particular knife, go ahead and comment down below, and maybe I'll put that on a priority list since some viewers are specifically interested in seeing it. Next up is the helical, which again, I find pretty interesting. I don't know how the ergonomics are going to be. I generally don't like sort of a hump like that on the back of a knife. You can see the other side there. But this is pretty compelling. I kind of like that design. It's a Ken Onion design, bit of a departure for him. So I may have to pick one of these up and check it out. You know, just because I kind of like this design. Next up is the Monashi. I'm hoping to pronounce that right. This is another of the field strip technology knives. And look, I've got to say, guys, to me, this looks a little cheap and plasticky, but I don't know why it's kind of waiting on that picture. But anyway, it's still coming up, so that's fine. So the Monashi looks, as I say, a little cheap, a little plasticky, but again, it looks very functional. So this, again, might be one that I pick up just to share with you guys. Let's see if I can find. So their MSRP is 79 bucks. So that means it's, you know, it's going to have the field strip technology, but it's going to be in their, what would you say, sort of slightly cheaper end of the spectrum. Next up, there's a couple of Matthew Lurch designs. This looks very, very Matthew Lurch for sure. Look at that slim, long blade. That curved back is very much a Matthew Lurch design. This guy looks kind of interesting. So again, it's a stainless steel frame lock, deep carry clip, might be worth picking up. This is the flat out. It's also, you know, pretty much a full-size knife, 3.57 inch blade length, but only 3.6 ounces, which I guess makes sense because it's so thin. So this, again, might be one, when CRKT, the knives that CRKT gets right, okay, let's say it that way, tend to be the stainless steel frame locks. Because they're simplistic, I think CRKT can sort of pull it off. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this weirdly done lock bar. We'll have to see how that works out. This is in the same vein. This is the, hold on, let me see if I can find the picture of the full knife. There we go. This is the Up and Atom, also designed by Matthew Lurch. Giant flipper tab on that knife, which is kind of off-putting. But again, it's interesting because of its size and the fact that it's a little lighter weight, and because CRKT, you know, if they are going to get something right, it tends to be their stainless steel frame locks. So again, maybe worth checking out. The last knife on the list is the one that I think is the nicest design. This is the Avant. Now, guys, I think this is a gorgeous, gorgeous knife. Like tends to be the case with CRKT, the 3-inch blade length is off-putting to me. For some reason, they do this to me every time. The Caligo was my favorite CRKT design from last year, and I still think it's a great knife, you know, with my rant about the steel, you know, still standing. And it was a little too small. You know, this knife with a 3.5-inch blade would be phenomenal, and I'd be super stoked about it. As it stands, I like the design. I'm pretty interested in it. I'm not sure why the thumb disc is placed the way it is. It's definitely way out there in the cutting path, which is a little annoying. But otherwise, you know, I'm kind of interested in this, and it may be possible to just pop that thumb disc off and use it as a flipper only. So anyway, this is the last knife that I've got on my list. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Are any of these knives appealing to you at all? Or have you just relegated CRKT to, you know, they make knives for cheap people, you know, they make cheap knives for non-knife people. And in some ways, I kind of feel that way about CRKT. But I do kind of watch what they're doing, because every year there's one or two that certainly seem to be something interesting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.